Hello, I'm User-Friendly's assistant, and in this video, this is what we're going to do. So we just have this straightforward drum beat here. And then we're going to make something so we can just sort of add in a couple notes and get interesting sort of drum things like this. So to start, I'm going to use an operator, and I'm not going to actually use it as an FM. I'm just going to use it as 4 sine oscillators. I'm going to put these on sync. And so now when I play this note, we have something like that. This one, I'll do the same, but maybe a different rate. Same for this one. I'll go up. I'm going to turn this off for these. And just on this one, I'm going to have a pitch envelope that sort of goes at the same rate. Actually, I'm going to go 8. Yeah. So then this one will also do the same. Yeah. Something like that. Doesn't matter. It's just supposed to be something pokey. So now I'm going to group this, come into key, and constrain this down to one note. And I'm going to shift it up. And I want it to stay on C, so I'm just going to shift it back down with this pitch. So when I play, well, I'm going to play C sharp, but what is going to be played is C. So nothing's happening there. It is happening there. All right. Now I'm going to duplicate it and shift it up one more note. And then just come in and change a few things. Doesn't really matter. It's just for, like some variation in the sounds. Maybe I'll go up, down, up. And then shift this. So now that we have that, do a kick drum. Same thing, constrain it down to this note. Now to get it to walk through these, I'm going to use an arpeggiator. Put the distance on 1 and the steps on 3. 3 is actually 4. Because it's going to be the first incoming note plus 3. I want this kick to happen twice. You could just duplicate it and have 2 different kicks, but then you would have to go through, if you wanted them to both be the same, you would have to go through and sort of assign these to macros and things like that. Or you could leave them alone and just, sort of change them up however you want. So you have sort of 2 different variations, and that can be interesting because you end up getting confused over time, and one will be completely different than the other, but you'll have thought that you were actually working on this one when you were working on this one, so you'll end up with a surprise in the way it sounds, so on and so forth. Or you can assign everything to macros like this and have the controls be the same. The way I'm going to do it here, though, is just to have one kick and then add a pitch if I can. I'm going to group the pitch, come in here, and same thing, just consolidate it down to one note. And these will be a little bit more, or a little bit less CPU intensive. So now you just have these pitches, and you don't really even need them. But that way, if you want to do something here with shifting the note up or down, you can, but you don't actually need the pitch. But now it's going to walk through and essentially be like a little sequencer. So if we moved this note here, why isn't that working? Oh, need to extend this. That's why it's not working. You get the idea, and you could sort of continue this. So maybe go up to like 8 steps, or use a random and do like 24 or whatever. But for this, I'm just going to kind of leave it as, you know, pretty basic, just like this. And then I'm just going to duplicate that. And on this one that I've just duplicated, I'm going to shift these up. So now it's the notes where the kick is not playing. We're going to have a hat play. So we have our little generative beat. Right now the gate's at 50%, so you can hear that these operator things are not going on for very long. If we increase that to 100, this is something worth modulating. And one way you could do that is to either just tie it to the kick, or you could just put your modulator, like this expression control, and just have it on the first note every time. So the first time it goes around in this loop, we could change the rate. Or we could just duplicate this, and this is going to start getting a little weird now. So I'm going to group this, come in here, and remember, we're stepping up through 3 notes here. So if I can strain this down, it's only going to happen on this arpeggiator. But this arpeggiator is still stepping up through 3 notes. So you could change that or leave it the way it is. At some point, like if we add another one and shift this up, this step count is going to get to 3, or rather 2. So this says 3, but remember, it's actually 4 because there's the first note that comes in. It's going to get to here, and this one, it's going to count up through these 3. So it definitely is a little weird. I have trouble wrapping my head around it. I just know it works. So now if we start changing rates, and that one's a little wonky. So maybe we'll have that only happen once. Maybe do 16. Yeah, something like that. Remember, this gate is also modulating. So this is, like I said, it's going to start getting really confusing, but usually, like, depending on how you set it up, it can be confusing in a good way to where you'll get interesting stuff once it's set up with little effort, you know, especially if you started adding expression controls and modulating these rates and things like that. And in fact, we could just do it so when we get to this first note, only this one is going to be modulated. We could even do something like this, so it really goes wild. Yeah. All right. So now that we have all this set up, like I said, you could sort of keep going with this for a really long time until you nearly have a completely generative track. But something like a kind of more useful reason you might do this, don't do that, is, let's see, what do we have? Actually, yeah, we use my basic drum rack because that's already interesting. Basically what this is, you've probably seen it in other stuff if you've watched any of my videos before, but basically this is just a kick, snare, and percussion thing. And every time the kick plays, we get this normal DS kick, but we also get a randomly selected kick from one of these 64 kicks. Anyway, it's just here to make a simple kick, hat, snare. So that by itself sounds like that. And then we could come in here and just sort of add some So all we had to do was just sort of make a simple beat and then just essentially adding random notes at a few different spots. And you could even do more than this and then add some chants and things like that. This sort of really basic source material, like if we listen to it, there's nothing that interesting about it, but I feel like that sort of material is the best stuff to kind of run through super glitchy effects and stuff like that. For example, shifter. So something like that. That may be a roar. Maybe I like using LFOs for this sort of thing. So like I said, one thing we could do is, put an expression control so that way the expression control does the random thing at the beginning of each note. But I like using LFOs and having it not sync to anything because it'll end up being essentially the same as what I was doing there, just randomly turning knobs. And that actually works for quite a bit with glitch music. And then one more, so that way we don't always have it. So yeah, and again, this would be something, I'm using it quite a bit here, but if you had the rest of your track sort of playing through, this would be something where you want to break down or you want to, sort of have a chord swelling in and then come to a complete stop. You would just add one of these notes and chances are, it'll be something semi-interesting and synced with the clock and everything else like that. So yeah, this is a interesting way to do stuff. I'll save this whole patch and put it on Patreon. You can download it and take a closer look, or just kind of do the whole thing yourself. You'll probably get something more in your voice if you do it that way, but either way, it'll be there if you want it. All right, thanks for watching.